It is essential to propositions that they can communicate a new sense to us. A proposition must communicate a new sense with old words. The proposition communicates to us a state of affairs, therefore it must be essentially connected with the state of affairs. And the connection is, in fact, that it is logical picture. The proposition only asserts something insofar as it is a picture. In the proposition, a state of affairs is, as it were, put together for the sake of experiment. One can say, instead of this proposition has such and such a sense, this proposition represents such and such a state of affairs. One name stands for one thing and another for another thing, and they are connected together, and so the whole, like a living picture, presents the atomic fact. The possibility of propositions is based upon the principle of the representations of objects by signs. My fundamental thought is that the logical constants do not represent, that the logic of the facts cannot be represented. The proposition is a picture of its state of affairs only insofar as it is logically articulated. Even the proposition ambulo is composite, for its stem gives a different sense with another termination, or its termination with another stem. In the proposition, there must be exactly as many things distinguishable as there are in the state of affairs which it represents. They must both possess the same logical or mathematical multiplicity, like in Hertz mechanics or dynamic models. This mathematical multiplicity naturally cannot in its turn be represented. One cannot get outside it in the representation. If we tried, for example, to express what is expressed by for all x f of x by putting an index before f of x like gen f of x, it would not do. We should not know what was generalized. If we try to show it by an index g, like fxg, it would not do. We should not know the scope of the generalization. If we were to try it by introducing a mark in the argument places like gg, f of gg, it would not do. We could not determine the identity of the variables, and so on. All these ways of symbolizing are inadequate because they have not the necessary mathematical multiplicity. For the same reason, the idealist explanation of the seeing of spatial relations through spatial spectacles does not do, because it cannot explain the multiplicity of these relations. Reality is compared with the proposition. Propositions can be true or false only by being pictures of the reality. If one does not observe that propositions have a sense independent of the facts, one can easily believe that the true and false are two relations between signs and things signified with equal rights. One could then, for example, say that P signifies in the true way what not P signifies in the false way, and so on. Can we not make ourselves understood by means of false propositions as hitherto with true ones so long as we know that they are meant to be false? No. For a proposition is true if what we assert by means of it is the case, and if by P we mean not P, and what we mean is the case, then P in the new conception is true and not false. That, however, the signs P and not P can say the same thing is important, for it shows that the sign not corresponds to nothing in reality, that negation occurs in a proposition is no characteristic of its sense, that is, not P equals P. The propositions P and not P have opposite senses, but to them corresponds one and the same reality. An illustration to explain the concept of truth. A black spot on white paper. The form of the spot can be described by saying of each point of the plane whether it is white or black. To the fact that a point is black corresponds a positive fact. To the fact that a point is white and not black, a negative fact. If I indicate a point of the plane, a truth value in Frege's terminology, this corresponds to the assumption proposed for judgment, and so on and so on. But to be able to say that a point is black or white, I must first know under what conditions a point is called white or black. In order to be able to say P is true or false, I must have determined under what conditions I call P true, and thereby I determine the sense of the proposition. The point at which the simile breaks down is this. We can indicate a point on the paper without knowing what white and black are, but to a proposition without a sense corresponds nothing at all, for it signifies no thing, truth value, whose properties are called false or true. The verb of the proposition is not is true or is false as Frege thought, but that which is true must already contain the verb. Every proposition must already have a sense. Assertion cannot give it a sense, for what it asserts is the sense itself, and the same holds of denial and so on. One could say the denial is already related to the logical place determined by the proposition that is denied. The denying proposition determines a logical place other than does the proposition denied. The denying proposition determines a logical place with the help of the logical place of the proposition denied by saying that it lies outside the latter place. That one can deny again the denied proposition shows that what is denied is already a proposition and not merely the preliminary to a proposition. A proposition presents the existence and non-existence of atomic facts. The totality of true proposition is the total natural science, or the totality of the natural sciences. Philosophy is not one of the natural sciences. The word philosophy must mean something which stands above or below, but not beside the natural sciences. The object of philosophy is the logical clarification of thoughts. Philosophy is not a theory, but an activity. A philosophical work consists essentially of elucidations. The result of philosophy is not a number of philosophical propositions, but to make propositions clear. Philosophy should make clear and delimit sharply the boundary, the thoughts which otherwise are, as it were, opaque and blurred. Psychology is no nearer related to philosophy than is any other natural science. The theory of knowledge is the philosophy of psychology. Does not my study of sign language correspond to the study of thought processes which philosophers held to be so essential to the philosophy of logic? Only they got entangled for the most part in unessential psychological investigations, and there is an analogous danger for my method. The Darwinian theory has no more to do with philosophy than has any other hypothesis of natural science. Philosophy limits the disputable sphere of natural science.